Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Should You Play? Unlike other channels or websites, my goal is to help you reach a decision on whether or not a game is worth your time and money. Instead of using a grade-based system, I'll go over the features of the game, give you my impressions, and let you know, should you play Guild Wars 2? The game's just been released, and you might be wondering if it's worth picking up. I'm going to do my best to give you my opinion, but don't take my word for it. Check the comments to see what other people are thinking. There's no way I can cover everything, and there's always people with unique insights willing to share their experience. Now here's my disclaimer. As of this recording, the game's only been out a week, but, like a lot of people out there, I've kept up with it for months before release, and I've played through some of the beta events. I've also read the 2 novels they released a while back, so I have some idea of what's going on in the world of Tyria. With the story being an integral part of the game, I'm going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum.
It's tough to prosper nowadays, but we try.
ArenaNet, the makers of the original Guild Wars, are an experienced team with the budget to make a AAA MMO. We've seen other MMORPGs promise to be the best new game on the market, only to flop after the first free month given with the initial purchase. In their various trailers, the devs insisted that they were rethinking concepts that most other games took for granted. Unlike WoW, Guild Wars doesn't follow a subscription model. You buy the game and that's it. It's also not a free-to-play game, so there's no buy-to-win microtransactions or content locked until you make an additional purchase. The art team wanted the game to feel unique. In a trailer, they'd pointed out that games don't always age well, so they wanted to have a lot of 2D art that reinforced the direction of the game. We've all seen great games that looked fantastic at release, but were unplayable years later because of the new standards we got used to.
Thanks. The crate will be on alert. We'll probably stick together.
There's no contract-style quests in Guild Wars 2. Actually, you don't have a quest log at all. Rather, they have events occurring in the world that players can take a part in. For example, in the Sylvari starting zone, there's an event that asks players to free an NPC from his underwater prison. Then, you protect him until he gets to the shore. If he dies along the way, the event's objective changes to revive him. And then, it just continues. When that's done, the NPC starts another event, urging players to bring him scales from the corpses of his dead captors. As you progress through the levels, events become more interconnected, and they tell a story within that region. A really interesting concept that they have is that, rather than have to fight for mobs, each player is given the same experience for any events they take part in, or any monsters they help killing. In the same way, each kill generates loot for eligible players. It's a seamless system that works really easily, and just makes it so that you don't dread having people around you killing things.
We can't go on living our lives in fear. I have to fight. I have to make a stand.
ArenaNet wanted to put an emphasis on the personal story being told in the game. They try to make it unique right from the character creation by using a series of questions that cater the user experience. The story for each character involves the iconic heroes from the series, so that nothing ever feels meaningless or trivial, like you're just collecting boar meat for the local butcher. Probably the most interesting feature they talked about was that content scales. In MMOs, people usually try to find the fastest way out of the leveling phase, just to get to the endgame. It's the most challenging, the most fun, and the leveling experience is like an extended tutorial. Now, Guild Wars focuses on the journey, but that also means that they haven't put the endgame like raids or hard modes. But on the other hand, with content scaling, that means that a level 40 player can go to a low-level area, get reduced to the appropriate level, and get relevant experience and useful loot. In other games, I'm not much of an achievement chaser, but Guild Wars tries its best to make players go out and obtain 100% completion for any zone that they enter. Generally, a zone's completion involves 4 different things. You have hearts, which is a small hub where specific tasks have to be completed. You have skills that are usually unique challenges that grant points towards character progression. Then you have points of interest that mark special areas within the world. And finally, you have vistas that are hard to reach places, and it usually requires a little bit of thinking and some platforming to get to them. And what's really interesting is that completing the map is much faster than just grinding out mobs or repeating the same event.
Sergeant, there are more centaurs on the other side of town. Captain Thackeray's calling for reinforcements at the garrison.
If he's calling for help, it must be serious. But I can't spare anyone.
In terms of gameplay, combat does feel more fluid than other targeting MMOs. There's no passive dodging or evasion, and the player is required to use skills to stay alive. They've also scrapped the class roles of healer, tank, and damage dealer. Instead, every class can adapt to any situation. Each one has access to healing abilities and can play a little bit defensively when they're under attack. Also, losing all your health in combat enters a phase where your character fights for his life. If a friend helps you up, think like Gears of War, or if you kill an enemy with a limited set of skills, then you get back into the fight. Very few games ever put an emphasis on underwater combat. It's generally regarded as being slow and clunky. Guild Wars 2 offers characters unique weapons with skills available only underwater, and this lets them add an extra layer of gameplay, and it gives players some added variety. With every class being self-sufficient, they really didn't want to bombard players with a ton of abilities that are only meant to be used in specific situations. And so what you're going to see is a set of 5 skills generated based on your equipped weapon. In the Thief's case, having 2 daggers results in a set of skills that favors dodging, while the opponent slowly dies of bleeding. If you equip a pistol in your offhand, then you gain access to blinding abilities, and it makes tanking much more manageable because the other guy just can't hit you.
Up for a challenge?
The conquest maps in PvP feature their own levels. This means that any character can join 8-on-8 minigames and King of the Hill style maps where 3 points have to be captured and held. And because of the PvP levels, players are paired up appropriately. And yeah, that means matchmaking in an MMO. There's no better items to be gained from Conquest PvP. That means that players only unlock skins that change the look of their character, with no stat benefits. What they expect players to do is to tweak their builds and get the most out of their characters without using items as a crutch. World vs. World PvP pairs up 3 different servers together in free-for-all for control of bases, towers, camps that grant bonuses that carry over for the rest of the server. Just like Conquest PvP, servers are paired up together based on their performance in the previous battles. People's stats are bumped up to 80 so that everybody can contribute towards their team's efforts, and it's possible to keep leveling even within the World vs. World map by capturing points, killing players, and you do unlock some loot.
What?
For players coming over from WoW, the gem store is an interesting concept. It's meant to deter players from buying in-game gold from third-party websites. The gem store lets people buy a currency that can be traded in-game either for rewards or gold. This means that people who are looking for a boost can buy some gems, pick up a few upgrades, and others who want those little extras can trade their in-game gold into gems. For the studio, the influx of money from the gem store means that they can keep a development team on hand consistently working on updates for the game without resorting to a subscription model. I have to point out that the original Guild Wars released 3 expansions over 2 years that had to be purchased for additional content, so they might do that here. I've gone over the key features, but is the game any good? Is it worth playing? As far as how the game looks, great aesthetics don't necessarily equal to a high polygon count, but generally refer to how the game looks and feels. For example, Mario Galaxy is a great game with great aesthetics, as is Call of Duty in its own way. The goal is for them to be able to sell you the feel of the game. Do I buy into the world of Tyria, or am I just grinding levels from random monsters? And I'm gonna have to admit that I love the way the game feels. As far as graphical power goes, Terra, running on the Unreal Engine, is a far more visually impressive game, but Guild Wars 2 focuses on immersion. It feels like every nook and cranny was designed to fit in with the rest of the game. Monsters don't just stand around in fields waiting for you to slay them. There's Easter eggs everywhere, and lore isn't given to you through blocks of text, but with voiceovers during gameplay.
Beware, there are sons of Svanir in the caves, devotees of Elder Dragon Jormag. They'll rip you apart if you're reckless.
And that's what's really important. On the other hand, they focused on the single-player experience so much that playing with friends is a huge hassle, and even if they've promised it's currently their top priority, there still aren't plans to add a looking for group tool in the game. They also don't have a trade feature or a duel feature, and it makes playing with friends or just social interaction in general extremely difficult. On a positive note, I've never enjoyed leveling or grinding in any game. MMOs are worse because endgame acts like a carrot on a stick, forcing you to hit level cap. And that's why playing Guild Wars 2 has been so refreshing. I'm not in a rush to hate 80. The fact that there's nothing to do is also a factor, but it lets me enjoy the rest of the game. But with the way they've designed the leveling aspect of the game, it's a double-edged sword. Even with content scaling, the game design clearly pushes players forward, and eventually a large portion of the player base is going to be 80. And with no typical endgame, what's going to keep people playing? Since I just compared the game to Terra, I have to point out that Guild Wars offers an insane amount of variety when it comes to leveling and combat. People have been complaining about the ridiculous quests, kill X monsters, bring me X items for years. Guild Wars went a step beyond just removing them, and a large portion of hearts will give you a whole new set of mechanics to work with that completely change the user experience. You won't get bored leveling in this game because they don't make you do the same thing all the time. One aspect of the game that I found really disappointing was the combo system. The concept is that if somebody lays down a firewall and an archer shoots arrows through it, then he's shooting fire arrows. But the thing is, even though the mechanic works, nobody really uses it in combat moves way too fast, there's too many things happening at a time, and nobody really bothers, because you don't need to. So long as you're paying attention, you're spamming your buttons, you're doing just fine. And it's a layer of complexity that's just lost. I was impressed by the PvP builds in the Conquest mode. The lack of levels or items makes it so that everybody's on an equal footing, and 6 months from now, a new player can jump right in and he won't get crushed because everybody's a few tiers ahead in gear. And without having to play the catch-up game, then that lets people experiment with their build and the basic item set, so the challenge lies in getting the most out of your character. It's great because it really evens out the playing field and makes room for skill and strategy. This does come with a drawback. The PvP aspect of the game is very different from what other MMOs usually offer. You don't have to gear yourself out for hours in PvE to be competitive in different aspects of the game. They've completely isolated the two, and hardcore PvP fans are going to love it. For the casual players, this does make you wonder, if there's no gear and if my character isn't progressing, then what's the point? When you compare Guild Wars 2's PvP to, say, Call of Duty's multiplayer, they're very similar, and people play the multiplayer aspect almost exclusively in that game. The difference here is that people who play MMOs usually look to invest in a character and want that sense of accomplishment and progression when they finally log off at the end of the night. PvP levels and skin rewards are going to keep hardcore PvPers in there, but I feel like a lot of casual players are going to be turned off.
The beach is yours!
In the PvE aspect, it seems like every few minutes in this story, it branches off and I think to myself, I'm going to have to make an alt and see what that other option was. Even though I usually stick to one character when I decide to commit to an MMO, Guild Wars just might be the first one where I'll be playing more than one. Probably the worst part of the Guild Wars 2 experience right now is just how bad their launch is. Key features don't work even a week past launch. Market, guild, party system, mail, PvP tournaments, all experience downtime at some point or another. Hackers and gold spammers are already out in full force. There's ridiculous queues for world versus world, and it feels like I spend most of my time on an overflow server.
I'm not completely useless.
When it comes down to it, should you play Guild Wars 2? Yeah. It's a great game that has its perks and its flaws, but the reason that swayed me was that it shouldn't be compared to World of Warcraft or Terra because it's not a subscription MMO. It's similar, but it should be compared to a game like Skyrim, only with multiplayer. Even if you don't see yourself investing in a single game for months, you can still spend dozens of hours trekking through the land of Teria with those $50. And once you've bought it, you can always drop it and come back to it in a few months without having to reactivate a subscription or worry about losing all your stuff.
The tournament is nearly over, but there's still time for you to participate.
Thanks for watching the first ever episode of Should You Play. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and mash the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm also taking suggestions for the game to be featured in the next episode, so if you have any ideas, let me know.